Mr. Donoso, will you read Resolution 10, please?
My pleasure, Mr. President. Board of Education Resolution, Christopher Columbus Day. Whereas over 500 years ago, Christopher Columbus bravely embarked on a journey west across the Atlantic Ocean in search of a sea route to the eastern stretches of Asia. And whereas, with the support of Queen Isabella of Spain, Columbus's 3 vessels, the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, followed a route that he mapped, and whereas Columbus and his crew of 90 endured an arduous journey of 33 days before reaching the New World on October 12, 1492. And whereas history remembers Christopher Columbus as an outstanding navigator and as an organizer of expeditions, and whereas a Columbus Day celebration was first held in 1792, and in 1971, Columbus Day became a legal federal holiday now celebrated on the second Monday in October. And whereas the Elizabeth Board of Education recognizes the courage, bravery, and spirit of adventure that Christopher Columbus demonstrated as an explorer and as a navigator. Now, therefore, be it resolved that during the month of October, appropriate studies, activities, and displays be planned in all of our district schools to remember and honor Christopher Columbus, a man whose spirit and determination truly changed man's vision of his world. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to all principals and school librarians in the Elizabeth Public Schools. I move the resolution.
Second. Moved by Mr. Donoso, second by Mr. Gonzalez. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, Mr. Kennedy.
Montero. Castillo.
Yes.
Donoso.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
Padlo.
Yes.
Herrera.
Yes.
Trujillo.
Yes.
Nazca.
Yes. Mr. Gonzalez, will you read 10A, please? My pleasure.
National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Whereas people with disabilities have throughout the history of this country made remarkable contributions to countless fields of endeavor, including medicine, education, the arts, journalism, government service, and science. And whereas this year marked the 60th anniversary of the American with Disability Acts and the 30th anniversary of the Individual with Disability Education Act, 2 landmark pieces of legislation that transform our country's disability policy and set a standard for other nations of the world. And whereas in the United States of America, we define ourselves in many ways, not only by our families and communities, but also by our work. And whereas it is incumbent upon all of us as employers, employees, educators, and especially as fellow humans to recognize and tap into the enormous potential of individuals with disabilities and to do everything possible to integrate Americans with disabilities into this country's working force. And whereas it is especially important that all students with disabilities in the Elizabeth Public Schools are given all of the help they need to master the skills they must have to successfully seek gainful and rewarding employment. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Elizabeth Board of Education joins with the President of the United States in designating October 2012 as National Disability Employment Awareness Month, ability you can bank on. Be it further resolved that teachers in all our schools plan activities and programs that will bring about awareness of the fact that people with disabilities are ready, willing, and able to contribute to the growth and development of this nation, and should be given every opportunity to do so. I do so move this resolution.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Gonzalez, second by Ms. Castillo. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, Mr. Kennedy.
Montero. Donoso.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
Padlo.
Yes.
Herrera.
Yes.
Trujillo.
Yes.
Nazca.
Yes. Mr. Padlo, will you please read 10B?
Board of Education Resolution, Italian American Heritage Month. Whereas Italians and Italian Americans have made great contributions to America's society economically, culturally, and politically. And whereas Italian Americans have won prestigious prizes such as the Nobel Prize, the Pritzker Award for Architecture, and the Fields Medal for Mathematics. And whereas Italians and Italian Americans invented pianos, violins, calendars, radios, telescopes, compasses, microscopes, thermometers, eyeglasses, steam engines, typewriters, and batteries. And whereas Italian Americans have toiled and labored while helping to build our nation's infrastructure, including railroads, tunnels, highways, and subways. And whereas the Elizabeth Board of Education recognizes that it is within the school community that pride in our nation's history and an appreciation for the experiences and contributions of men and women of all racial, religious, and ethnic groups are developed. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the month of October 2012 be designated as Italian American Heritage Month to promote awareness of the valuable contributions of Italian Americans, past and present, to all aspects of American life. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to all schools and librarians in the Elizabeth Public Schools to encourage the development of programs, activities, and displays in recognition of the important role Italian American men and women have played in the birth, growth, and development of our country. Move to pass the resolution.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Padlo, second by Mr. Gonzalez. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, Mr. Kennedy.
Montero.
Yes.
Castillo.
Yes.
Denoso.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
Padlo.
Yes.
Pereira.
Yes.
Trujillo.
Yes.
Nazca.
Yes. Mr. Pereira, will you please read 10C?
Board of Education Resolution, Week of Respect. Whereas the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights, Assembly Bill 3466, was approved by the New Jersey Legislature in November 2010 and signed into law as PL 2010 C-122 by Governor Chris Christie on January 5, 2011. And whereas the statute is intended to protect students from harassment and intimidation and would substantially interfere with their education. And whereas in a 2009 survey by the National Centers for Disease Control, 1 in 5 New Jersey students indicated they had been the subject of bullying on school grounds during the previous year. And whereas the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights places expanded responsibilities on teachers, school administrators, and Board of Education to protect students from incidents of bullying, harassment, and intimidation. And whereas the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights designates the week beginning with the first Monday in October as Week of Respect throughout New Jersey. And whereas the law directs school districts to observe the Week of Respect through age-appropriate instruction in accordance with New Jersey's core curriculum content standards. And whereas the Elizabeth Board of Education recognizes the harmful impact of harassment and bullying on children and is committed to providing all of its students with warm, safe learning environments free from intimidation. And whereas the Elizabeth Board of Education supports the intent of the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights to protect our children, as well as the goal of previous law to enhance training and instruction to prevent harassment, intimidation, and bullying. Now therefore be it resolved that the Elizabeth Board of Education declares October 1st through 5th, 2012 as a Week of Respect in all district schools. Be it further resolved that the Week of Respect will be a part of the Elizabeth Public Schools' ongoing efforts to foster respect among students and staff for the diverse cultures and personalities represented in our school community, and that the resolution be spread on the official agenda of the Elizabeth Board of Education. I move this resolution.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Pereira, second by Mr. Gonzalez. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, roll call, Mr. Kennedy.
Montero.
Yes.
Castillo.
Yes.
Denoso.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
Padlo.
Yes.
Pereira.
Yes.
Trujillo.
Yes.
Nazca.
Yes.
This is second reading of the revised regulation and policy, free or reduced price lunches and milk, File Code 3542.31, and gangs and gang-related activity policy, File Code 5131.2, and a resolution for adoption.
Move the resolution.
Second. Moved by Mr. Pereira, second by Mr. Gonzalez. Any questions or comments?
Mr. President, if I may,
Commissioner Trujillo.
I'm going to ask that my colleagues support this resolution, especially the gangs and gang-related activities. As we're all aware, unfortunately, gangs are a reality in urban districts as Elizabeth, and although they're ignored often by others who, for their own political reasons, decide to ignore it, it is the responsibility of this board to protect our children and to be aware, to make the public aware that this problem does exist. And I think having a policy that addresses the problem, gets us in front of it, and can really protect and probably down the line even perhaps save a child's life from joining a gang. I think it's important that we continue to focus on gang awareness. As my colleague Mr. Francisco Gonzalez said today, these uniforms, now that we have all our children in school uniforms, one of the benefits of that is having awareness that these children are our children when they're in school. We can recognize who they are, and this avoids the gang initiations and associations and affiliations that comes with gang activity. So I ask that we all support this, and we send a clear message to the citizens of Elizabeth that we are committed to protecting our children from gangs in the great city of Elizabeth.
Mr. President, if I could just jump on that, on the words of Mr. Trujillo, I can't tell you how many parents I've spoken to in the last several months from throughout the city of Elizabeth that have actually been moving back to the city of Elizabeth from surrounding towns, from Linden and Roselle and Hillside, because of the school uniforms and because their particular towns are now having problems with gangs. So I think it's a remarkable achievement and accomplishment, and the accolades that the city of Elizabeth, that you have people from other towns and surrounding towns now moving back to the city of Elizabeth because of the progress and success here of the uniforms and the policies of the Elizabeth Board of Education.
Any further comments? Roll call, Ms. Kennedy.
Montero.
Yes.
Castillo.
Yes.
Denosa.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
Padlo.
Yes.
Pereira.
Yes.
Trujillo.
Yes.
Nazca.
Yes.
Ms. Castillo, please read 10E.
Board of Education Resolution is School Violence Awareness Week, where school safety is always a top priority of educational officials, and whereas promoting school safety is one of the utmost importance to all, and whereas schools must be safe places where students can learn and grow without fear of violence, and whereas in age-appropriate opportunities and programs are provided for students, including discussions on conflict resolution, issues of students' diversity and tolerance, and where schools provide opportunities for students, parents, and school district and law enforcement personnel to discuss methods for preventing school violence and vandalism. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the members of the Elizabeth Board of Education hereby proclaim the week of October 15, 2012 as School Violence Awareness Week. Be it further resolved that copies of this resolution be forwarded to all school principals and library media specialists in the Elizabeth Public Schools to encourage the observance of this week with appropriate programs, ceremonies, and activities. So I do move this resolution as a social worker.
Second. Moved by Ms. Castillo, second by Mr. Gonzalez. Any questions or comments?
Mr. President, if I may,
Mr. Trujillo.
In talking with Commissioner Padlo early on after his appointment, we're starting to build consensus on this board that we can do more at security. And Mr. Padlo had some great ideas, and we're working on those. And hopefully soon we could have something that we're going to roll out with the board's support. But security is so important. It is such an important issue that that we provide a safe environment not only for our children to learn, but for our teachers to teach. It's important that we keep the staff and the children safe. In order to do that, we need to have a community outreach. The community has to buy into this. Our students walk the streets all the time on the way home, on the way to school, and it's important that we keep them safe. So hopefully, if this initiative kicks off, the idea would be to get the community involved, to say something when they see something. It's not a new model. It's something that's been used since 9/11, and we think that perhaps it'd be a good avenue to get it into the local businesses and the community at large. It's important that we get community buy-in to safety and the initiatives in the school. This is one way that they can participate in keeping our kids safe from the harms that are the urban streets. It's unfortunate we often forget that we do live in an urban setting, and it's a big city with a lot of people who come through and not always have the best intentions for our children. It's all of our responsibility, not just these board members, not just the parents, but the community as a whole. So hopefully, if we can build on Mr. Padlow's vision of bringing out the support for more security and awareness of security. If you visit our facilities, you can see that we have a great support from our security guards. They're well trained, they're often trained, and they diffuse a lot of stuff that could potentially happen and bring harm to our children and to our staff. We've invested a lot of resources in security. There are capital improvements in the works for security, adding cameras throughout our district. These are important things. We've bought equipment, we've bought cars. If you haven't seen them, they're great, these little electric cars. They use them around the high school to get around. And it's making our school district safer. But we have to create awareness among the community that this is a real threat. When our children leave our schools, or they're on our way to school or our way to a program, they are at risk sometimes. And we can all chip in by keeping an eye out for them. And if we see something, we have an obligation as citizens to say something and keep them safe. So hopefully, once this kicks off the board and it's presented to the whole board, we can gather support. But I think it's a great initiative, and I'm going to start lobbying for support early for this. Hopefully soon we'll have something to present to the whole board and move forward on it.
Thank you, Mr. Trujillo. Any other comments? Roll call, Ms. Kennedy.
Montero.
Yes.
Castillo.
Yes.
Noso.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
Yes.
Munn.
Yes.
Padlow.
Yes.
Pereira. Yes. Trujillo.
Yes.
Nasca.
Yes.